Football. My little girls and no other sucker made a banner that was a bad mother. Don't cuss. Not us. It's the sport of kings, better than diamond rings. Football.
Welcome to the Married with Picks podcast, season 3, episode 1, week 1. Season of change this year. A lot of off-season changes. So, Steve, I was a little nervous leading up to week 1, but I'm starting to feel a little bit better after looking at everything.
There's a lot of change.
Welcome
back to season 3. I didn't think we would do it for 3 seasons when we started this thing, but
I didn't think you'd make it through 1.
No, we got a lot of requests to keep going. I mean, we're picking winners, so not every week's a winner, but the majority of them are. We've done good the first 2 seasons, and we feel like we got a lot of winners lined up for this year. Like you said, Jaclyn, there's a ton of changes in the NFL this year, so a lot to get caught up on.
So week 1 started last night with the Bills pretty much dominating the Rams. I think we were both on the Bills there.
You were both on the Bills, but I think just about everybody in America was.
You think?
I
know my business partner, Roberto, was not. Shout out to Roberto. Lost some money on the Rams last night.
Let's just all remember that, there's a Super Bowl hangover there with the Rams. They haven't really been hitting in camp, so they're probably going to take a couple weeks to get firing. But everybody wants to anoint the Bills the next champion. I think we got a long way to go here, so everybody needs to slow down. But they look great yesterday, and Josh Allen quickly comes out firing for making the case to be the MVP of the NFL this year.
Yeah. Okay. Definitely a little premature there, but all right. So, we'll go through these games. We're going to try to highlight some of the changes in coaching personnel as we go through, but we're not going to hit them all because there's a lot. So first game on the slate is the New Orleans Saints at the Atlanta Falcons. It opened at -3.5 in favor of the Saints. It's up to -5.5. So to me, this is a division game, but it's 2 very unknown teams because we have Sean Payton is gone as the coach of the Saints. We have Jameis Winston as the quarterback, who we did see a little bit of him last year. And then the Falcons, obviously without Matt Ryan, it's going to be Marcus Mariota at quarterback. So to me, it comes down to the defense, I think. And I think the Saints defense is much better than the Falcons. So I lean Saints, but I'm not sure I want to put my money on it.
I like Atlanta over here. I think I've
heard a lot of people talk Atlanta.
Really? Because I heard a lot of New Orleans. To be honest with you, I think a lot of people are hot on New Orleans, and getting 5.5 at home for the opener. Arthur Smith, not too well known last year when he got the head coaching job of the Atlanta Falcons, but he's 1 year under his belt getting this offense in play. I look at it like Mariota versus Jameis. I think Jameis has probably got the higher ceiling, and Mariota's never going to be, an elite passer in this league, but he has been in the league for a handful of years. This feels like a game where I think I look for New Orleans to have the better season this year, but I look for Atlanta to come out of the gates firing and at home trying to buck the trend. They're 0-7 against the spread the last 7 home games. So it's almost so bad there that I think this is the time where they're going to jump in here, get fired up for week 1. And we might have a couple matchups like that where the better team's not going to win this week. I can
remember going out of Survivor Leagues on a couple Saints play week 1. So
yeah, you got to be careful with the Saints week 1. They're on the road. It's a division matchup. I just think that there's a lot of points, 5.5. I'll take Atlanta in this one.
All right. Like I said, I lean Saints, but I'm not going to put any money on that.
Okay.
All right, so next game up is the San Francisco 49ers at the Chicago Bears. This is at 6.5 in favor of San Fran. So this is another game where we have some unknowns. We have Trey Lance starting at quarterback for the 49ers. I think he did play some last year, right? And I don't think it was very impressive.
He got a little bit in there, but he didn't do much. I think Justin Fields had more. They displayed more talent last year. In the games.
I read an article that Shanahan didn't really want Trey Lance. So that kind of worries me.
That's tough when you're the coach and you don't really want the quarterback that you're drafting.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
So I don't know. And that whole situation with Jimmy Garoppolo was just bizarre to me. So, and then we have Justin Fields for the Bears. So he was in last year, but they do have a new coach there. And I don't know who that is, to be honest. So, and it also feels like a really big line. 6.5.
Yeah, I have it at 7.5 on my sheet, but I'm looking it up now. It looks like 6.5, 7. It's flashing a 7. I don't see 7.5 anywhere. So you're gonna have to check me on my lines that I printed up.
But doesn't that feel like a big line for a rookie? I mean, essentially a rookie quarterback.
It does. This game has the same feel for me. I put it in the same category as the one we just talked about, the Saints and the Falcons. Like it's kind of two bad teams. 49ers are a good team, right? But they're teams that I'm not that excited about, that typically I would move on from. But I think there's opportunity here. Just like the Falcons getting points at home, I feel the same situation here with Chicago. It's too early. Justin Fields looks like he can. Last year was it Mooney's the receiver in Chicago that he really connected with.
Did he though? I think that was Foles that seemed to have the connection with Mooney.
Well, regardless, he put up a great season last year. I'm looking for big numbers out of him this year again. And with Fields getting more confidence under him, has a little bit more NFL playing action than Trey Lance coming in the game, the season opener at home with a 7-point line. I think you got to take the Bears here.
I can't do it. I would probably tease it down and take the 49ers or play the money line.
It's a tough one.
I got to give Kyle Shanahan more credit in the matchup. So I think he's had the time now to prepare with Trey Lance as his quarterback. So, I mean, he's going to have a game plan going in. And I think, and that's where I lean. I don't feel good about it. And I would not take it at 6.5. That's for sure.
Matt Eberflus.
Okay. Yeah.
We're all going to get to know Matt Eberflus pretty well.
I've heard the name. So where was he at before?
He was the defensive coordinator for the Colts.
Okay.
So, I mean, the Colts had a really good defense. Clearly, defense for the Colts wasn't the problem last year. But his first time head coach coming in here. It's a tough one. I think you look for San Fran to win the game maybe by 3-4 points, but it's a lot of points.
Yeah. All right. So next game up is the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cincinnati Bengals. So obviously Ben Roethlisberger has retired, and the Steelers will be rolling out Mitch Trubisky as their starting quarterback. Otherwise,
do you know where he was last year?
He was
in Buffalo.
Yeah, he was the backup in Buffalo, Allen. And then he was with the Bears before that. Player that didn't really
by the Bears.
pan out too well.
Yeah, well, they moved way up in the draft
ahead of a lot of good quarterbacks.
Yeah.
All right. So this is a division game. And last year we really saw the Bengals show up in these division games. So they won both matchup against the Steelers 24-10 and 41-10. They did the same thing with the Ravens, 41-17, 41-21. They did lose both matchups to the Browns. So this is the first game that I feel pretty good about. My pick is going to be Cincinnati, and I would take it at the 6.5.
All right, I'm going the other way. Pittsburgh is 16-4 in the last 20 in Cincinnati. And I look for them to get a little bit of revenge after last year. They didn't really fare too well against the Bengals. And I think that was a key sticking point, having to watch the Bengals play in the Super Bowl. You know, Mike Tomlin and the crew in Pittsburgh was really game planning a lot of the offseason for their matchups against Cincinnati, because a lot of their success is for this season is going to depend on playing well in these two division games against the Bengals. So I'm going to take Pittsburgh here. I think that they can at least keep it within the 6.5 points. So if you want to go on this one, we can make this a play.
I was just going to say, I'm not going to bet you on it because I feel so confident in the Cincinnati Bengals that I don't want to ruin it.
Come on. I like Pittsburgh. Plus, I have Najee Harris in a lot of fantasy leagues, so I'm big time on the running game there.
No, I'm not going to do it.
Oh, you're scared, huh?
All right, fine. But when they lose, it's all your fault.
This is the first bet of the year. It's the $20 Married with Picks.
Write it down so we don't forget, because we don't keep track of that very well.
Jaclyn, Cincinnati, Steve, Pittsburgh. We're not really seeing eye to eye on a lot of these games. And as you know, when we see eye to eye, a lot of the times those are the ones that are...
I'm definitely shocked to hear you on the Steelers there.
Yeah, I mean, listen, a lot of these first three games, these are like, I'm going against teams that I'm looking for more in the 2022 season than the team they're playing against that I'm picking. For some reason, I like the spots. I like some of these lines, these high lines that they're giving out. I'm going to take them.
All right. So next game, Steve, is the Philadelphia Eagles at the Detroit Lions. So watching episode 1 of Hard Knocks, I got very excited to take the Lions in this game.
I don't think you're the only one.
Really?
No, there's a lot of people drinking the Kool-Aid from watching Hard Knocks.
Everybody
for the
loves
Detroit
Dan
Lions.
Campbell.
He's a bum.
He's a bum?
He's had zero success in the NFL.
He seems like a good coach. He's a player's coach.
Seems like
he shows a lot of passion. I like that.
Well, listen, there's no doubt that his players play for him. But at the end of the day, what matters in this league is wins and losses. And that clown doesn't get any wins when he was with Atlanta. He hasn't gotten any wins last year when he was with Detroit. And hopefully this week he will not get a win.
So I think to me, and this came up in episode 1, he was playing his players in the preseason because there's no way to simulate the action of an NFL game in practice. And Sirianni took the opposite approach. And I remember hearing on your radio shows that you listened to early on in training camp that they had hour-long practices or practices that didn't even last an hour. He didn't play his players in the preseason. And I understand the risk of injury stuff, but when you have a young team, you have new players, it's important for them to get as close to real game action as you're going to get. So that to me definitely favors the Lions. Now I do have fear of last year because these teams did play last year and the Eagles pretty much smoked them. So that's kind of in the back of my head, but I'm going to stick to my guns and I'm going to take the Lions at -4 or +4.5.
All right. So I'm going to tell you, this is kind of scary game for me because of the reasons that you were just saying.
And go ahead.
I mean, how can you actively get excited about the philosophy of not hitting in training camp? Especially anybody who's, above the age of 30, grew up with 2-a-days, these guys killing each other out there to get prepped for hitting each other and killing each other during the regular season. So I understand the philosophy is, less contact should prevent injuries. The Eagles are going into the season very healthy, but are they going to tackle well? Right?
Are they going to get tired?
We've talked a lot about, I was just saying that the matchups that I'm picking, I'm going against the team that I'd like for better success during the season in week 1.
So does that mean you're taking the Lions?
Well, this scares me. And this is what I'll compare it to, okay? Pretend you're a wrestler in high school and you're a guy, right? And you're going to the wrestling match, you go out to the mat, and you realize that you're going to wrestle against a girl, right? It's a no-win situation. You beat a girl. You can't brag about it. You beat a girl. You're a guy. You should win. You lose to the girl, and you're in trouble because there's going to be a lot of your buddies kind of pointing the finger at you. Let's just say this is a no-win situation. If they beat Detroit, they should win, and we move on. But it's very tough, and it's going to really putting opposite philosophies of how to run a training camp head to head. Detroit doesn't have as much talent on the roster, right? But they've been hitting. You can see in the Hard Knocks that they're fired up from day one. They're in midseason form already. And the Eagles have been playing it soft. So we'll see if they can dial it up and turn it on. I am prognosticating that the Eagles will win by 10 points, but it still scares me. This Detroit team looks like they're going to turn it around. St. Brown, for those of you who play fantasy football, I think that's the guy that you want. He looked great last year. He clearly had a connection with the quarterback there and was scoring a lot of points. So I don't see any reason why, first of all, that's going to discontinue this season. I'm just putting a plug in here for St. Brown, but why he's being drafted in fantasy leagues, so late, I have no idea. He's a hot talent, and I look for big things this season from better things than they showed last year. But they, on the roster, they can't even compete with Philly. Philly should smoke them. What scares me is that everybody is on the Philly hype wagon. Jalen Hurts has not proven a thing really what he's proven is the last game that we saw him against Tampa Bay, that he couldn't read a defense to save his life. Well, has he magically learned how to read a defense? We can't tell because he didn't play in the preseason. They had a couple scripted plays. I was at the game. I saw it. There were a bunch of quick rollouts and hit the guy. He wasn't making reads. He was just quick one hitter, take the first priority in the route. So I haven't seen anything that proves that he has learned how to read a defense. If I'm a defense in the NFL and I'm playing the Eagles, I'm going to stack the line, not allow the run, and make Jalen Hurts throw the ball. So we'll see.
All right. So do you have a pick on this game?
I like the Eagles.
So you're going to take the Eagles at 4.5?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next game up is the New England Patriots at the Miami Dolphins. So I think historically the Patriots have struggled in Miami. Last year, the Dolphins actually won both matchups against the Patriots. In week 1, the Dolphins won by 1 point. The line on this is it opened at -2.5 in favor of the Dolphins. It's up to -3.5 in favor of the Dolphins. There hasn't been a lot of talk about the Patriots in the preseason. Like, I haven't heard much. Obviously, Josh McDaniels left. And they have, I guess, Matt Patricia, who was defense. Now,
Matt Patricia, the red sweatshirt defensive coordinator that went over to Detroit and had no success, right?
Yeah, I guess he's going to be calling the plays.
Oh, he's a great defensive coordinator.
But he's going to be calling the offensive plays, is what I read. Him and somebody else, I can't remember. So wow. I guess that's the weird part. They don't really have like a offensive coordinator necessarily, I guess, at this point. So, I mean, that's a little worrisome. But I do wonder to what extent.
What about Belichick's son?
He was defense after Patricia left.
All right.
So I assume he's staying in that role.
That's why he's moving over. They're making room for him.
But I do wonder to what extent, like, Flores was the coach in Miami, and he obviously worked under Belichick. So I wonder to what extent maybe that gave him a little bit of an edge. We have Mike McDaniels as the head coach now, coming over from the Chargers. And last year when the Patriots played the Chargers, the Patriots actually won that game. So I think I have to take the points and go with the Patriots.
Well, as we move into the state of Florida, just a quick shout out to our fellow friends down in FL Teams, Isaac Edelman and the crew down there with Jeremiah Hensley and the rest covering the Florida teams. Take a look at them if you're looking for some more content, some good Florida football action there, covering the Dolphins and the Buccaneers and the Jacksonville Jaguars. But just wanted to give a quick plug out to the FL team boys. We're going to stay in Miami here and continue the discussion with Mike McDaniel, who's the first-time head coach. Some videos came out with him trying to relate to the players, a lot like Nick Sirianni we were talking about, and he looked like kind of a chump. So I'm excited to see, because I think he's got a great roster down there in Miami, to see how he's going to relate to the team and if they respond to him on the field, because it wasn't that impressive of some of the hot takes that we heard.
Are you talking about like when they first brought him in? Because there was like the clip of him on the plane, like talking to Tua. It was very awkward. He sounded
like an idiot.
Yeah.
So we'll see if he's made amends with that. It's I saw them a couple preseason games, and the preseason doesn't mean anything, but the team looked like they were using Tyreek Hill appropriately, spreading the defense and then working passes underneath. Saw a bomb to Tyreek Hill early against the Eagles, but it was against their backups and they rolled. So it'll be interesting because Miami's a team that I'm hot on, even though I'm still really paying attention to this coach to see if he's going to blow it up or not, because that roster has been building and building and building for the last 2 or 3 years into eventually hope to be a championship contender. So I'd like to see what Mike McDaniel can do, because he is coming from the Shanahan coaching tree. So I know that you're a big Kyle Shanahan. Obviously, I'm a big Mike Shanahan fan. Show my age a little bit, but growing up with the Denver Broncos, he did a hell of a job. So his son's doing a good job with the Niners as well. We'll see if that can continue here down the coaching tree with Mike McDaniel in Miami. I'm going to take the Dolphins. I would just like to call out Devontae Parker is switching from the Dolphins, a longtime Dolphins receiver, into New England. And it seems like from what we're hearing out of camp that he's getting quickly acclimated to the offense there in New England and could soon be their number one target. So I was kind of thinking that, I'm a big Devontae Parker fan. For whatever reason, he's kind of took the shadow when they got in the shadow of Waddle. And then he's expandable when they got Tyreek Hill. So they didn't really need him. So I think he's another situation where he's going to be hungry coming in week 1, trying to prove something to his old team. So I'd watch out for him putting the ball in the end zone for New England.
All right. So you got the Dolphins there.
Yeah, I would take the Dolphins at -3.5. I think they continue to show that they can play with the Patriots and beat them.
Oh, and I will mention this is one game where I looked up like the money. Where's the money? Where the handle is on the Patriots, but the money is on the Dolphins.
Okay.
And I would also like to give you credit for the shout out to FL teams because I forgot to plug our own podcast when we started. So if you're watching, remember to like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube. All right. Next game is the Baltimore Ravens at the New York Jets. The Jets will be without Zach Wilson because of the injury in the preseason. And it will be Joe Flacco.
Blue Hens.
Starting. And this will be a revenge game of sorts, I suppose, for Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco, the Delaware Blue Hen, gets the start.
The Super Bowl winning quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So I don't see how the Joe Flacco led New York Jets beat the Ravens, but I'm a little bit worried about that. Like there's going to be a game where you say there's no way and it happens. I don't see it, but the one thing that has me concerned to that effect is that Joe Flacco was announced as a starter 2 days ago and the line didn't move. So it's at -6.5 and it didn't move when that. And I feel like Zach Wilson to Joe Flacco is a step down. So I felt pretty good about the Ravens there. But just that little.
No, it's tricky because I think what the line is telling you is didn't move that, Vegas obviously thinks it's enough points regardless. But, I'm looking at this game. I think a lot like you that the defense of Baltimore is going to get after Joe Flacco. He can't move anymore.
Yeah.
I love Joe Flacco. I'm a Blue Hen alumni myself. And always have cheered for Joe Flacco. But why he's in the NFL still is a mystery to, I think, pretty much all of us.
Yeah, and why they start him over that Mike White guy is also
that's an interesting conversation. Because are the Jets really that scared of Mike White that he might perform well and, cause some turmoil in the locker room with Zach Wilson? Because the players really got behind Mike White when he got the start. So it's an interesting conversation in itself. I agree. He probably should be starting this game. But they're going to go with Flacco. We'll see what happens if they're getting blown out at halftime. Wouldn't be surprised to see a quarterback change. The quick note, the Baltimore Ravens are 8-2 in their last 10 against the spread against the Jets. So I like that. Combined with Jackson just basically walked away from the negotiation table. So he will play in his 5th-year contract and become a free agent at the end of the season. So if he's playing for a contract, better watch out for this guy coming out of the gate. He's going to really try to prove the front office in Baltimore should have paid him. And he's going to want to prove to possible suitors for next season that he's their guy.
Okay, good. Because I was going to ask, maybe that has some effect, but okay. Thinking the opposite.
No. Well, no, he's going to, contract
that makes
year.
Sense, yeah.
Most, it can go either way, but for the most part, I'd say 80 to 90%, you're going to get a better performance out of the guy coming into a contract year because he's playing for his, the money for the next season.
Right. Okay.
Less likely to cash it in.
All right. So are you taking the Ravens?
I am taking the Ravens. How about you?
Okay. I'm taking the Ravens.
All right.
At 6.5.
6.5. I love it. Under a touchdown.
All right. So the next game up is Jacksonville at Washington. This is and I printed this out way too small. I need glasses. So it opened at -3.5 in favor of Washington. It's down to -2.5.
I got 2.5.
So this is an interesting game to me. I don't think we learned much about Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence last year because of the whole Urban Meyer fiasco.
What a debacle.
So now we have Doug Peterson coming in, much more of a player's coach, I would say. So, and he's going to be going up against Carson Wentz, who obviously he coached in Philly. So it's a revenge game of sorts. Who benefits from that? I have to think that it's probably Doug Peterson. He's going to know what Carson Wentz is good at and what he struggles with. And I think he can hit him with what he struggles with. So I'm inclined to take the Jags, take the points and take the Jags, especially if it's, well, I'd like it closer to 3, but.
I think the book's out on Wentz, whether Doug Peterson was his coach or not. You pretty much got to get him moving around and get him having happy feet, and bad things typically happen, especially as he holds onto the ball too long. Will throw the ball in windows that he has no business doing so. So he's susceptible to the big interception. He started to play really well last year for the Colts, but as we know, the last 2 games of the season, he couldn't get the Colts to the victory lane, which would have propelled them into the playoffs. So the last week against Jacksonville, the last time they played last week of the season was against Jacksonville, and Carson Wentz did not do well. Yeah. So, Washington is 0-5 against the spread in their last 5 September games. I'm going to like Jacksonville here, mostly because I think that with Trevor Lawrence and Etienne as the running back, who, remember, had the big injury in the beginning of the season last year, and we never got a chance to see what he could do, which is probably good because all that wear and tear that would have been on his body from the inept offense that Urban Meyer rolled out there might have actually in the long run be good for him. So I look for big things for him to prove. I think as Doug Peterson has showed that he can implement an offense that can be successful in the NFL and give Trevor Lawrence really the opportunity to shine as the first pick of the draft 2 seasons ago.
They did acquire Christian Kirk from the Cardinals. So I'm going to call Christian Kirk touchdown.
Christian Kirk touchdown, you're saying?
Yeah.
They way overpaid because they had to get somebody down there to catch the ball, right? So I think he's maybe like the 2nd or 3rd highest paid receiver in the league.
Right.
Christian Kirk, coming from Arizona, where he was the 2, the 3. It was very interesting. But, I think I look for big things compared to what we've seen. Jacksonville's not going to win the Super Bowl, but could they be 500 this year? I think we'd all agree that that's a major step up from the last couple of years of direct that we've seen coming out of Jacksonville.
All right, so we're both on the Jags there.
Yes.
Next game is the Cleveland Browns at the Carolina Panthers. So another couple of teams with some changes. So we have obviously Cleveland acquired Deshaun Watson, who is not going to play for the first 12 weeks of the year. And Baker Mayfield is out of Cleveland and into Carolina, which is interesting. So again, we have the revenge game narrative here. I don't see Baker Mayfield as the guy that can take that chip on his shoulder and transfer it into a positive outcome on the field. There's also, and I didn't get into details, but something with T-shirts that he's had made up in Carolina about this whole revenge thing. So to me, like if you're that guy that can, show it on the field, you just go out on the field and do it. You don't make the T-shirts beforehand.
That's a great point.
So I don't see him, but unfortunately, Cleveland is going to have Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. So I don't feel good about that either. This line it's basically at a pick 'em right now. So it's down from -3.5 to 0 in favor of Carolina.
Who opened as the favorite?
Cleveland. So that's interesting because that would mean that people are putting their money on Baker Mayfield. I can't do it, right?
No, I like it.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's good revenge here for Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, but he's not that guy, is he?
Well, I think
he's talking about it. Like Tom Brady is the guy that can take the chip on his shoulder and translate it into like a positive outcome on the field. But he goes on the field and does it there. He doesn't have T-shirts made about it. He doesn't talk about it in the media beforehand.
No doubt.
Like that to me just says that he's going to go out there and throw up a clunker, and it's going to be brutal for him. And especially to the guys that are still in Cleveland that played with Baker Mayfield and know how to get to him.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, listen, I think what it proves more is that long term, this is not the clown you want to, hitch your wagon to.
Plus, I think, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Coach Matt Rule is really in a bad situation here because in all facts here, Matt Rule is coaching for his NFL career. If he doesn't do it this year, then, he's probably going to get fired. He could have gotten fired last year. So to roll in with Baker Mayfield as your guy and he's making T-shirts, long-term, I think that's just probably not the guy or the look that you want. He didn't really have a lot of success with Darnold last year. So he's basically got two mediocre quarterbacks. I think you got to give Baker Mayfield a chance here because he was slighted so bad by Cleveland. When you look at it from his perspective, like, hey, I think we can all agree Baker Mayfield is not Joe Montana, right? But from his perspective, in his head, he's been the number one talented quarterback in his class growing up, right? He was national champion at Oklahoma. He's been the guy. So for him to be that wronged or to be let go in the situation where they brought Deshaun Watson in, I think it is good fuel for the fire for one game. It's just not the guy that I want to hook my wagon to for long term for the rest of the year.
I guess my other thing is in Cleveland, he played behind a pretty good offensive line. Right. That is not the case in Carolina, and I think they have one other offensive lineman that got injured, so he's questionable. So that's not going to help either.
Well, can you give me 30 seconds on your feel with Christian McCaffrey coming back? How do you feel like his season's going to be? This guy has jumped back into top 3 or 4 fantasy pick.
I wouldn't touch him.
Top 2 in some cases.
I mean, I wouldn't have touched him in a draft because is he going to play the whole season? Like, how many games is he going to miss?
Well, that's the question. You're not looking for big things from him this year.
He could go out game 1 for all you know.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about him too. I don't have a lot of confidence with running backs coming back from ACL surgery, so it'll be interesting. But Kevin Stefanski's going to have his hands full here trying to right the ship with Jacoby Brissett until Deshaun Watson comes back in. What'd you say, week 11? I think he's got 11 game suspension.
11
week 12,
games
they have
plus the bye. Yeah, which I thought that was interesting because I kept hearing it was going to be 12 games and then all of a sudden it's 11 games. And when you look at the schedule, then he comes back as they play the Houston Texans.
It's going to be interesting because he hasn't played in so long. But, the guy, when he left the NFL, was, arguably top 5 quarterback.
Yeah, he's got the talent. He'll have a good offensive line. And
we'll see if he can keep his hands on himself.
Is it going to be too late in the season for them? I don't know. I wish it wasn't Jacoby Brissett on the other side because I would so be on the Browns, but I ain't touching that with a 10-foot pole.
I like Carolina here. I would take Carolina. Okay. It's a home game. Matt Rule, I think, will get them fired up, and I think Baker Mayfield will be able to. It's going to be a tractor pull. I think you're looking at like a 13-10 game.
Is that a 1:00 game? We probably won't even get to watch.
Maybe 14-13, maybe 10-9. 10-9 sounds good.
Know. I ain't putting my money on that game. I know that.
10-9 pick them or minus a half a point. Take Carolina.
All right. Next game up is the Indianapolis Colts at the Houston Texans. It opened at minus 7.5 in favor of Indy. It is at 7. So obviously Carson Wentz is out. We have Matt Ryan in. You would think that's an upgrade, although like the clips I saw of him in the preseason looked horrible. Like I had to go back. I was like pretty sure Matt Ryan is number 2, but the clips I saw of number 2, I was like, I have to double check and make sure that's really Matt Ryan because I thought he looked like crap, but I don't know how much, you give credence you give to that. Davis Mills on the other side, who did at times show flashes last year. And I would assume the team sees something in him. I don't know. It is a division game. I did go back and look at last year and I thought this was interesting. They played obviously twice last year. The Texans only scored 3 points total over the 2 games.
Really?
Yeah, they were shut out in one game and kicked a field goal in the other game. So that made me feel better about taking the Colts.
Well, I think, again, this is another game where I like the Colts. I'm huge on the Colts this season. I think that once Matt Ryan gets his team playing, those receivers are going to be very effective. And Matt Ryan's going to have a chance to get back into the Super Bowl. Mark my words. However, I think it's going to be a little ugly in the beginning. A lot of reports, and here's the situation of what's going on with the Indianapolis Colts. When you look at Matt Ryan taking over the offense for Carson Wentz, and the feedback is Carson Wentz is a lot, and we saw this a lot in Philadelphia prior to his time in Indianapolis. He's kind of play breaks down. He holds the ball too long, play breaks down, and, he's athletic. He can buy some time, but you can't do that all the time because eventually you're going to get hit by a defensive end. It's going to knock your kneecap. You're going to hold the ball and throw the ball into the secondary, and you're going to get a turnover. And that's what we see with Carson Wentz. So it was a lot of helter-skelter, breakdown, backyard football, get to an open area, move to the sideline, go deep if he starts scrambling kind of offense. This is more organized with Matt Ryan, okay? Matt Ryan's a professional quarterback, okay? A lot like Troy Aikman back in the day. He's looking at guys to break their routes off at 15 yards, and he's going to deliver the ball. So if they can protect him, he's going to stay in the pocket. He's going to trust the play and trust the receivers. But that takes practice and timing. You got to get that timing down, and it's going to take a little bit for them, I think, to really get this offense to flourish. But Matt Ryan has been given the keys to the offense. Pretty much he's, trying to work with the receivers to get those timings down and working with the offensive coordinator there. I think that in the long term, Indianapolis, good long shot to make the Super Bowl here. But Houston is 6-2 against the spread in the last 8 division games. Houston has Pierce coming out as a rookie, has looked really dynamic in the preseason, and her quarterback is looking strong after getting some key reps last season. So I think they're going to look like more of a gelled team. They're probably not the best roster. Brandon Cooks, still there as the number 1 wideout. Look for him to get into the end zone. I think you're going to have a close game. But Houston should cover this game. I like the Texans.
Well, yeah, I didn't want to look at your picks beforehand, but we're on the opposite side of a lot of these games.
Yeah. And I'm willing to take this as a game, too. I mean, I love Indianapolis this season. I'm not kidding. I'm probably going to pick them a majority of the weeks. Not here, though.
I'm going to stick with my pick, the Colts. 3 points last year.
You want to make it number 2?
Oh, fine.
All right, I'll take Houston.
Okay. All right, next game is the New York Giants at the Tennessee Titans.
All right, this is the first 4 o'clock game, right?
Yes.
All right, 4:25.
It is at -5.5, open at -6.5.
Yeah.
I really need glasses. Okay, so New York obviously has Brian Daboll coming over from the Buffalo Bills to be the head coach of the Giants. Titans lost A.J. Brown in the offseason to the Eagles. They also lost 2 of their offensive linemen, Roger Saffold and Quisenberry, who were both with the Bills last night. We saw them. So I'm a little worried about the Titans because of those 3 losses. They also put a lot of their money into their edge rushers, Bud Dupree and Harold Landry, who tore his ACL in the preseason, so he's not even going to be there. So I don't overall feel very good about the Titans this year. I feel like they had their window of opportunity and it is closing on them.
However, they're playing the 4-win Giants this season or this week.
They are.
Sorry.
But, we talked about it a lot last year. Without that deep threat, I mean, who do they have at Robert? I mean, I love Robert Woods, but he's not that guy. It's going to stretch the field for them. They did sign Josh Gordon to the practice squad, but I think we can all.
Oh, you're still holding out hope for Josh
I gave
Gordon?
up. I gave up on Josh Gordon.
I
gave up on Josh Gordon many years ago. I did have FOMO for a long time when it came to Josh Gordon.
I just think we should ban the term Josh Gordon from this podcast.
I just had to throw that in there. It was more of a joke. I don't even think he's on the roster. He's just on the practice squad.
I'm joking as well. But he's a bum.
So, yeah. And he's also old now. I mean, Jesus Christ. So, I don't know.
You're leaning Giants here.
No, I'm not leaning Giants.
You just don't like the game?
The Titans would win. I mean, I love Derrick Henry. I'm not going to give up on the Titans just yet. But overall, on the season, I don't have a good feel. This is obviously a good matchup for them. But we don't see the Titans necessarily blow teams out either. So, I mean, they win games, but it's kind of a struggle. So, I wouldn't take them at -5.5, maybe tease it down or play the money line on them. So that's where I'm at.
For the first time in a while, I'm interested to see what the Giants do. I'm personally really high on Brian Daboll, the new coach for the New York Giants, who was the offensive coordinator for Buffalo, leading Josh Allen and the Bills. Great season last year. So I'm really high on him, but I've talked to some people from Buffalo who they don't really hold him with high regard, and they don't really seem to think that he's going to be a successful head coach. I would tell you that the thing that you said that was key for me, and we discussed this a ton last year, is how ineffective the Tennessee offense was under Ryan Tannehill without A.J. Brown in the lineup. And for all the A.J. Brown dropped some balls and he could have had a better season and he was injured for a couple games. When he was injured and didn't play, that offense looked anemic. When he was in there catching the ball, they looked like they couldn't be stopped. And that was really the main difference for the Tennessee Titans last year. As we remember, Derrick Henry got injured and, that didn't help as well. But now you have just Derrick Henry. You can kind of focus on him. I'm right there with you. I like Robert Woods, but is Robert Woods the answer? He's coming off an injury himself, I believe. Tennessee is 1-5 in the last 6 week 1 games. So there's a trend for you to say Giants. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I like the G-Men this week.
Okay.
I'll take the points. It's 5.5, it looks like, right? All day. I'll take the Giants and see Brian Dable.
Got it.
Not Brian Dabble. Brian Dable.
I don't think you've mispronounced one name so far.
I think I mispronounced.
We haven't
his
gotten
name
to the Cardinals
time.
yet, though.
No, wait, we'll see.
All right.
Move on.
Yeah. All right. So next game up is the Green Bay Packers at the Minnesota Vikings. This is a division matchup. Obviously, there's a lot of hype because Mike Zimmer is out in Minnesota. They brought in Kevin O'Connell, who was the offensive coordinator for the Rams last year. So there's a lot of talk. And I guess Zimmer, he's been around for a long time. Maybe he kind of, wasn't as innovative or, kind of stuck in his ways, I guess you could say. A defensive guy. So there's a lot of hype that the Vikings offense is going to be a lot more dynamic and
well, after watching the first game of the season with the Rams and how anemic their offense looked, you have to ask the question, was O'Connell the main reason why they were, so successful last year as the offensive coordinator? Now that he's out of the mix, the Rams don't look as good it's just week 1, but now he's taken over Kirk Cousins and this Vikings offense who have struggled the last couple of years to really match.
What do you think about Kirk Cousins as a quarterback?
So I think Kirk Cousins struggles in a lot and he gets a bad rap because I think if he's in a successful system, which is, which I don't think he's had a lot of. He's had a lot of different coordinators and have had to. When you have to go into the season and learn a new offense every year or every 2 years because the offense coordinator continues to change and it's like a carousel. It's not easy as a quarterback. You look at Tom Brady, why is he able to have all those years of success in New England? Is even though the coordinators changed sometimes, they were basically running a lot of times the same terminology, the same offense. They might have given a more of a tight end look just to kind of switch things up, but he looked comfortable because the terminology and then the majority of the stuff didn't change there, even with some coaching changes. But when you look at what Kirk Cousins has to deal with, I think you're going to see if Kirk Cousins is the deal, which he has a hose. He has a great arm. You see that Justin Jefferson had a lot of success last year with him. I look for Justin Jefferson to take a lot of times year 2, the receivers, if they're a big year, will take a step back. I look because of Kevin O'Connell and the offense, if they can replicate what Kupp was able to do with Stafford last year as the number 1 receiver and the quarterback, I look for Cousins to have that same connection. He already has the connection with Jefferson. So if this guy gets him on the same page, running a lot of the same routes, I think that Justin Jefferson, who did run slot in college, so he can do a lot of those, even though he's a bigger guy, he can do a lot of those quick ins and outs off the line of scrimmages, quick hitters turn and then take off. So you have him, you have Osborne on the other side. You still have Adam Thielen, right, as a third receiver.
Slot receiver.
And your running back is one of the most dynamic, if healthy, running backs in the league.
They also have a good backup. I don't know. I mean, to me, I guess Kirk Cousins is streaky. Like, I don't know if he's the guy that really stands up in the face of pressure. I think he did look better like last year than he had in the past.
He's very inconsistent. Streaky's a great word.
Like, he'll just totally go out and shit the bed.
Yeah, it's hard to be married to Kirk Cousins. I don't want to. The potential is there, and that's what we're talking about. Especially it's week 1. We're trying to get you up to speed on some of the changes, along with giving you some winners here.
But he
we want to talk a little bit more about some of these changes in the personnel, so you understand where we're coming from with our picks, and that you can get more comfortable with the NFL in 2022 with some of the changes that have happened since 2021.
And he definitely did not have a great relationship with Zimmer. I mean, there were clips of him on the sideline, just weird. But so. I don't know. We'll find out this year, I guess, whether Kirk Cousins is good or not.
Here's a stat for you on this game. Green Bay is 1-4 in their last 5 against the spread.
Okay, so let's turn to the other side of the ball because we have Aaron Rodgers on the other side. But he did lose his number 1 guy in Davante Adams. Allen Lazard, who he did show some chemistry with or connection with last year, is out this game. So I feel like Rodgers is kind of like Brady in that there's a chemistry issue for him. He's not going to throw the ball if he doesn't trust the guy. He obviously trusted Adams a lot. He's not going to be there. The one other receiver that he kind of showed a connection with is not going to be in this game. I normally don't go against Aaron Rodgers, especially if the line is only -1.5. But I don't know what to expect. I really don't without Davante Adams there. Much as I hate to do it, I'm all kind of leaning towards the Vikings. And anytime I take Kirk Cousins, he just doesn't show up. So
don't downplay. So as we talked about, we want to give you up with some of the changes. Obviously, I think this is one that everybody knows is that Davante Adams has moved and taken his talents from Green Bay over to the Las Vegas Raiders. We'll talk more about that as he teams up with his old college quarterback later. But I think that we cannot overlook that as being a major piece of this Green Bay offense for the last 5 years. So that is Aaron Rodgers' go-to guy over the last 5 years. So, you take him out of the lineup. What are they going to do? I'm not sure that they put anybody in there that's going to really do even closely to what Adams did in this offense for Aaron Rodgers. So I think big problems for Green Bay. I look for them to take a major step back this year.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm going to lean on the Vikings there, but it doesn't feel good.
If anybody who's not looking at the NFL and thinking about the salary cap and the impacts it has on rosters and teams, I mean, you need to wake up because you paid the quarterback. You don't have enough money to pay the receiver. And that's exactly what happened in Green Bay, and Adams had to leave. It's not that they didn't want him. You think to yourself, why would he leave? They paid the quarterback. He went for the money. You got to pay the MVP 2 times in a row. But you look at a guy like Brady who takes less money so that they can sign other players so that they can have a successful campaign and compete for a championship. Green Bay is going to get everything they deserve. Aaron Rodgers will get everything he deserved. Yeah, he was a 2-time MVP and Jeopardy host. He got paid $50 million a year. Now they can't sign a backup offensive lineman. The big star wide receiver goes shopping out to Las Vegas, and we'll see what happens this year.
Well, and this is a good lead into the next game because, let's get your pick on this game.
What, Minnesota?
Yeah.
I like Minnesota.
Okay. So the next game up is...
I like Minnesota a lot.
Okay. All right. We're on the same side there. I don't like it a lot, but I like it.
I love it.
I like it enough that I would bet it.
5-star pick.
So the next game up is the Kansas City Chiefs at the Arizona Cardinals. This opened at -2.5 in favor of the Chiefs. It's up to -6. But you were just talking about cap, the salary cap, and this is a team that the salary cap caught up to.
Tyreek Hill.
So Tyreek Hill is gone.
Same situation.
And I feel like these guys, all they care about is the dollar signs, and they don't think long term. Because like you mentioned, people wonder how has Tom Brady been able to do it all these years? Because Tom Brady's got 7 rings at this point? Is he the highest paid player in the NFL? No. Is he the highest paid quarterback? No. Because he takes the salary cut so he can build the team around him so he can get the rings. Like Tyreek Hill leaving Kansas City where he had Patrick Mahomes, he had Andy Reid, going to Miami. I don't know if that's a good move for him.
No, but to your point, it's not on Tyreek Hill. It's on Patrick Mahomes, who got $500 million in his contract 2 years ago. So as soon as, listen, this deal is a little different. This is by 1 year, right? This is the same deal in Green Bay that's happening in Kansas City. The only difference is that Patrick Mahomes got his money a year ago,
right.
and now Tyreek Hill is coming up as a free agent, they already understand that they're not going to be able to sign him. So they cut ties a year earlier than his contract running out so that they could get some value back in return from a trade perspective. The same thing in Green Bay. They just decided, hey, we're going to pay him this year instead of playing another year with Devontae Adams, who was actually a free agent, I believe, at the end of last year. He shipped out to LA. So it's the same situation. You can't blame the receiver. The quarterback took the money. The receiver's looking for the money, so he left.
All right, well,
you
maybe I'll blame Patrick Mahomes, but I don't know. To me, I think you got to try to make
Receiver's
things.
getting $25 million a season now.
Well, that's good, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
I mean, it's all in perspective of what the overall salary cap is, right? So they're getting more money because the overall salary cap's going up, but you pay.
I mean, maybe Tyreek Hill is a bad example because he's a very unique talent, but for another player, it might make the difference on how long he lasts going to another team with a lesser quarterback that's going to be throwing in the ball. He's not going to look as good as he looked playing with Patrick Mahomes.
I agree. Let's get back to this pick in this game.
All right. So, I kind of worry about the Chiefs without Tyreek Hill because I feel like he is a unique talent. Every team that's played the Chiefs for the past couple of years, the defensive game plan, the first step of that had to have been, how are we going to deal with Tyreek Hill?
Yeah.
So now that changes everything for the teams playing them. They don't have to account for that element anymore. So I feel like the Chiefs' reign is over. And the Cardinals have a lot of injuries. Obviously, they're going to be without DeAndre Hopkins for the first 6 games. They also have Rondale Moore, one of their wide receivers, is going to be out for this week. Christian Kirk left. They also have their left guard, Justin Puig, and Zach Ertz, tight ends, and JJ Watt are questionable for this game. So I would keep an eye on those injuries, but I feel like the Chiefs are getting way too much credit here. So I would definitely take the points and take the Cardinals.
So going back to the Tyreek Hill thing, I think there's a good correlation here that we should make it, not to bring the Eagles back up again, but Andy Reid is the coach of the Kansas City Chiefs. And when Andy Reid was the coach of the Eagles, he had Deshaun Jackson, who would basically run deep and take the safeties off of the defense, and then you would run Maclin underneath and just cherry pick Maclin, the tight end, Ertz all day catching a ball, right? Or Brett Selleck back in the day. So this is the same situation where you had Tyreek Hill taking the top off the defense, and now you're not really replacing him with the same type of speed. So I look for it to struggle, just like it struggled with Andy Reid in Philadelphia when Deshaun Jackson left. So, he actually left before Deshaun Jackson, but they ran the same type of concept on the offense until Deshaun Jackson left, tried the same thing the next year, and it didn't work. So you got to watch out for that situation that you talked about where the fast guy's gone. I think that Kansas City definitely takes a step back. I don't know how much in love with Arizona I am this season. It's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out with the interesting quarterback negotiation that they had.
Yeah, what was it? They require him to watch so many hours of film. That doesn't bode well. But
yeah, so even the fact they took that out of the contract, but we all saw the news, which basically the story came out that was Lamar Murray, right?
No.
I always do that.
You did it. Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray. I always do that with Lamar Jackson. So Kyler Murray, right? They send home a video for him to watch, and it's a blank tape. And he comes home he comes back to practice and acts as if he watched the film. I didn't hear that. That's why they put this in the contract, because they called his ass.
Very interesting.
So where there's smoke, there's fire. So that's what he's another one of these guys that's really into gaming as well, like playing the video games. Yeah. So that's what he's doing. He's playing video games instead of studying. So I don't know that let's give him all the money and he's miraculously going to change his ways. Good luck there in Arizona. This is a bad game for me. I don't like either of the teams coming into this season. I kind of want to wait and see. I'm not going to make a pick.
We do get the Cardinals on the in-season Hard Knocks, so that should be interesting.
Oh, wow. That would be cool.
All right. We got to speed this up because we're already at 53 minutes.
Games left.
All right. Las Vegas Raiders at the Los Angeles Chargers. It opened at -4 in favor of the Raiders, and it's down to, I'm sorry, I just screwed that all up. It opened at -4 in favor of the Chargers. It's down to -3.5 in favor of the Chargers. We have this matchup from the playoffs last year, obviously, where the Raiders won that
There's such good playoff games last year. I was just I didn't even think about this game until you said this is a rematch.
Yeah, well, they won the game, but they could have tied it. Yeah, and both teams would have gotten in. So we have Josh McDaniels coming over from the Patriots to be the head coach of the Raiders. I think that's good for them. They also signed Devontae Adams, who has a history with Derek Carr. The Chargers offensive coordinator left for the Miami head coach job. So I could see this as a high scoring game. I think it'll be a close game, so that inclines me to take the points. But I do love the Chargers as a team overall. I think the Raiders did some stuff to beef up their team. So, I mean, they could be better this year than they were. So I got to take the points.
All right, I'm going to lay this game out this way. Love Justin Hebert, love Austin Eckler, love Allen. I think that the Chargers are going to have a really great season. They're going to continue to improve. However, this week, I'm just going to get right to the point. It's Vegas. Okay. They're the ones that got left out of the playoffs. They're the ones that got screwed in that game, right? They've been thinking about it similarly, like Buffalo had been thinking all year about how they lost, and they came in and they killed the Rams on Thursday night. Vegas is going to come in here and they're going to smack the Chargers around. Especially what I love the most is Devontae Adams.
But the Vegas didn't get left out. They made it.
Oh, they made it, but they're going to come in here and they're going to beat the Chargers because the Devontae Adams is a difference maker. I mean, this guy is legitimate. He made Brett Favre the MVP 2 years in a row. Not that Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, obviously a great talent, but underrated is these receivers who make every play. Devontae Adams is probably, in my mind, the best receiver in the league, and I think it's very underrated. You got a couple guys, in the rankings slipping ahead of him, like Justin Jefferson's been in the league 2 years. You'd rather have him than Devontae Adams, especially the way that Derek Carr slings the ball around. You're also going to look for big things for Waller. If he can stay healthy, he is the premier tight end in the league, and with that wide receiver taking coverage, he's only going to be more wide open because in the past, he has produced when healthy, but he's been the only target. So he's getting double and triple teamed all the time, and he's still making catches. What happens when you got to cover Devontae Adams and Darren Waller? He's going to have a lot more plays. I look for them to kill teams this year. Chargers going to be a tough game. Couple stats here for you. The Raiders are 5-1 in their last 6 against the spread in week 1 games. Okay, they're also 4-2 against the spread versus the Chargers in their last 6. So I want to take the Raiders here. I really like them for the season, but I also like the Chargers as well. This is a division matchup, could be tough, but hey, you get 3.5 points, take the points.
Yeah. All right. I'm with you on that one. Okay. Next game is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Dallas Cowboys. This is a week 1 matchup from last year. That was a close game, high scoring game. The Bucs ultimately won 31-29. Cowboys lost Amari Cooper over the offseason. And Michael Gallup is out. So that really leaves them with CeeDee Lamb. I looked up their depth chart. It was a bunch of guys I've never heard of. And Dalton Schultz at tight end. So I got to go with Brady and the Bucs. And it is at -2.5 in favor of the Bucs.
Oh, wow. Look, I just found this really good stat for this game for the Cowboys. You want to hear it?
Sure.
Dallas sucks. Take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
All right, we're on the same side of that one. All right, so the Monday night matchup is the revenge game of the week. We have Russell Wilson taking on his former team in the Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks have decided to start Geno Smith over Drew Lock at quarterback. There were some articles that came out recently about how Russ was unhappy with Carroll and the general manager of the team for scouting quarterbacks in the past couple of years. I don't see any way in hell that the Seahawks win this game. So that scares the crap out of me, especially since it's the Monday night game, which is always the games that go, the primetime games are always the one that go the opposite when you think there's no way. And of this, so majority of the handle, but in terms of the bets, 91% of the bets are on the Broncos.
That makes sense. I'm hearing a lot of Broncos. I mean, you probably should take Seattle here, but how can you back Geno Smith? And how did he beat out Drew Lock? I don't get it. You got Russell Wilson coming back to the 12th man field in Seattle. Do you know that the fans are going to be pumped up and giving it to him as if he never played there? They're not going to hold back. There's no animosity there because of the fact that, he did kind of request a trade. But basically Russell Wilson is walking in with Javonte Williams, the second-year running back. Cortland Sutton is the receiver with Jerry Jeudy, who's coming out of Alabama. He looks to stay healthy. They did probably their most elite receiver as Patrick, who's up and coming. He's out. He's injured. He's done. So it's going to be interesting to see if Russell Wilson can get it done with Sutton and Jeudy. But, with that defense, and I think that's the key here, you've seen what Russell Wilson could do in the past when Seattle's been stacked up on defense. He hasn't really needed a lot of offensive weapons to get the job done. Is he over the hill? No, he's still, in his 20s, right? Is he in his 30s?
He might be, but
he's either like 29, 30, something like that. He's not. Point is, he's not over the hill. He could still be Russell Wilson. So, I think that you look for Russell Wilson to come back here and shove the ball directly up Seattle and their fans, where the sun doesn't shine. I think you take Denver here. Yeah,
so I might have to tease it down just because I have that fear of this game going the opposite. But I don't see how Russell Wilson loses this game at all. All right, so we made it in just an hour.
Nice.
So, all right, that's going to do it.
Our goal was 45 minutes.
Well,
we're 15
but
minutes
an
over.
hour is good. That's going to do it for us for week 1. Remember to like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube. Peace out.